Welcome everyone to the BCNA meeting, finally. Okay, it's been a while. It would have been earlier this year, but one of us was clumsy at home and wound up not doing well for a while. So that person would be in front of you and it's just not attractive. Okay, so we have a lot to discuss and we have a lot of people, which is fantastic. And I thank all of our city employees, officials, etc. for coming. Now, that being said, we do like a response. Okay, so now, it is our tradition to let those departments who are on call and being of service to go first so that we can hear what they have to say and then let them go back to their regular lives, all right? Which is, you know, kind of a drag for anybody that goes after them who wants to get out of here faster too. So without any further ado, it is with great pleasure, and I really mean it because we do have issues. Hold on, gotta take my glasses off. Battalion Chief, I knew it was like a rank that I was not familiar with because it's just too high up the ladder for me. Battalion Chief Timothy Ramirez is here to talk about our fire dangers and getting ready for fire season. We are very blessed. We have not had a wildfire here since 1965, and you can see the video of Richard Nixon hosing down his house on YouTube. It's great.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Good evening, everybody. As she said, my name is Tim Ramirez. I'm the Battalion Chief in Battalion 5, which covers all 7 stations in Hollywood. And our crew from Fire Station 82 is in the back there. There's your local crew. This is Fire Station 82's district. I was a captain there for a number of years, so I know it very well. I was a captain, too, over at 35s on Hillhurst, so I know the east side very well. And now that I'm a battalion chief, they moved me to 27s. That's our battalion headquarters, which is the one right behind Hollywood PD station. And so I've been typecast on the LAFD as the Hollywood guy, I guess. So I'm it. I'm your guy. So just was invited to come out and speak to you all about fire safety. And, you know, it's a huge concern for all of you, I'm sure. Where you live is a very high impact area for fire. It's a big concern for us on the LAFD. Everybody that lives up in this canyon, you're in the very high fire severity zone, as you well know, and I'm sure you've gotten brush clearance notices from our fire department. And I'm here to tell you, brush clearance works, right? So the rules are, and you can, if you have any questions, LAFD.org, the website, will answer everything that you have. It'll give you information on the requirements. It'll give you a website to go on to find contractors to clear the brush. It speaks to, you know, the background behind it. It gives you the numbers and the emails in order to get a hold of the brush clearance unit, which is a specialized portion of the fire department that's part of our fire prevention bureau that just specializes in brush. I know that probably as residents, sometimes it's kind of a pain in the butt to get those notifications, but it's really for the safety of the entire community. Having 200 feet clearance of beating down that brush makes our job so much easier when you do have a fire, right? And there's limited resources. When there's a brush fire, there's only so many firefighters that can come in a short amount of time to start to fight that fire. And so the more help that we can get on your end by hardening your home, and by hardening your home, we're talking like, using, things that are less combustible around your house, keeping the brush down. The other area of concern up here is access, right? Everybody knows how tight the streets are up here. And when we have our red flag days, and I hope everybody's on the notification and they get the emails and the texts, that you can't park there because we need access with those big red fire trucks that we have one of them parked out there to try to get up there to mitigate the problem as quickly as possible. Having been an engine captain up here, we had many calls up on all of these streets, and probably 5 times we had to use the floor jack to jack up cars to push them over a little bit further or a little bit, over onto the curb while we're responding to an EMS call or to a fire call, which is delaying us from going and rendering care, right? Because somebody just parked a little bit too far off the curb or parked a little bit in a red area or whatever. Now intensify that in the middle of a wildfire, and we have as many fire engines as we can get up here to go and save lives, put the fire out, control the situation, and we're having to, use floor jacks and whatnot in order to get a fire engine up there. So it's very, very important that the entire community buys in on what we're trying to do on red flag days and limit the parking. And I know it's an inconvenience for everybody that lives in this area because you have such limited parking. In fact, when I got on the fire department, you had to live in the city, and I lived right here on Verbena, which is just right around the corner here. And the first 3 months I was on the job. Now here I am 3 years from retirement, and that seemed like another life ago. But yeah, it's super important that all of these things that you pay attention to it. The city is very proactive, and I go all over the state fighting brush fires, right? When the brush fires go out, we have mutual aid where we send rigs from LA up to Northern California. And a lot of counties and a lot of different areas of the state, they don't have brush clearance. And I see a lot of homes burned down because of it, right? We just cannot stop fires when there's combustible stuff that goes right up there. When they have overgrown trees hanging over their houses that are like candlesticks that go up in fires. And I know for sure what we're doing in the city of LA is saving lives and is preventing the big fires from getting, or small fires from getting bigger. So that's kind of the message for today is a couple of things. LAFD.org has basically all the information that you could possibly want about the fire department. It'll tell you the statistics of your area, it'll tell you all the contact information and everything, and the organization of our structure. There is a section on there that you can sign up for LAFD alerts, and when a big fire or any kind of major incident breaks out in your neighborhood, you get a text message on your phone that'll alert you of something that's going on in your neighborhood that could potentially lead to an evacuation situation, right? A hazardous material spill, or if debris flow in the rains when the hillsides are coming down, or a fire. So I highly suggest if you live, especially in these areas with access problems and limited resources way up into the canyon, that you sign up for that. Second, brush clearance, take it serious. The city takes it serious. That's why they're finding people and really holding you to the 200-foot clearance and keeping your trees 6 feet off the ground, because those are ladder fuels. When ground fire, grass and stuff is on fire, and the tree limbs are down low, they catch fire, and then next thing you know, the whole tree's on fire, and it's throwing embers up to quarter mile, half mile down canyon because of the wind. And it's like we had a fire here, and now we got 3 fires behind us a half a mile away, right? And those are the things that we contend with in wind-driven brush fires. What's that?
What is?
Yeah, on the website there is the email for the brush clearance unit, and you can report all of those things. We have I wouldn't say an army of inspectors because we're pretty short-staffed on the fire department, but we have a team of inspectors that go out daily, and they go and they check all the parcels and everything else. But it's a huge city, right? So sometimes things get missed, or there's not enough current information in our database in order to do it. So if you see something, by all means report it. There's a process, right? The owner has to have due process, so it's not like it's going to get taken care of right away, but they have certain amounts of times they get cited, and then they have 30 days to comply, and then if it goes to that, it could be a little bit extended. But the city does hold them to accountable. So, another question? If it's a fire hazard, right? We can't smoke like in the, can you smoke in the streets in here or whatever? Like, as far as I know, that's not against the law. But if it's endangering something that could potentially catch on fire, then it can be, right? If it's posted no smoking or whatever. But I'm not aware of a city ordinance that says you can't smoke anywhere in this area because of smokers' rights, right?
We do have a high fire severity warning at the base of Beachwood. And I don't want to rat him out, but it's
Rat him out. What's his name? Right here. Get to me. Anybody else got anything? And we're just talking brush, but regarding anything with the LAFD or Hollywood or anything else? That was easy, guys. Come on.
I we do our best. Now, excuse me, because they make me do this meeting. One of us, again, needed to call Fire Station 82 EMTs to save their life, which they did. So I'm really glad all of you turned out, because if you ever figure out which one of you were at my house, tell them I said thank you.
All of them,
Okay.
right there. All those guys
Yeah.
right there.
Well, you know, I was so unconscious. I said, oh my God, I can't believe it. 4 young, healthy, good-looking men in uniform are fawning all over me, and I can't even open my eyes to see. It's very sad. All right, now, LAPD has not arrived yet. They did say they were coming, but they would be late, so we're going to move on. Now, my next person is, I'm really happy about this because this is just fantastic. I had nothing to do with this. This is all Augusta, who met Mr. Nguyen, and I have a card to make sure I do this title right here in my, oh my God, I'm such an old lady now, putting stuff in my bra. Okay, Mr. Nguyen, who is the Central Area Representative for our esteemed Mayor, Karen Bass, and it is so nice to have someone from the Mayor's office actually come to the neighborhood. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Nguyen. I'm the Central Area Representative for the Mayor's Office, and I'm trying to serve Nithya's office, right? We want to work really closely with the office to make sure that she has everything that she needs in her power so that we can work together to improve the communities, right? I just want to introduce myself to you. I have some cards, love to be in touch with folks. I'm accessible, but really, I'm here to serve the council office. So let's give it up to them.
Is this a little Shakespeare?
Yes. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, then we can ask you all sorts of questions and take up your time in the back. Because
Oh.
we have more speakers.
I would love for the councilwoman to
She has notes.
Yes.
We sent her notes.
her time is really valuable. I can be here a little bit longer.
So what I like to do is, if you want to be this quick, if you stay, people will come.
I'm gonna
And
stay.
there may be questions for me.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
you
exactly.
are
See,
prepared.
so
Yeah.
it's all good. We work this out. I didn't move it along
don't you
because
do it.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. See, you're now stuck here. You're now stuck here. Did Joshua make it here yet? I don't see him. So, all right, then our esteemed council person. Hold on, is that okay? All right.
I can make it home to put my.
You can make it home.
Yes.
This is Nithya Raman, our council person.
I'm gonna jump right in here.
You get right in there. I
Yes.
told you we gave you notes.
Okay, got it. Sorry, guys. If I can kiss my kids before they go to sleep, it's a pleasure for me. I love to be here, but also a pleasure to do that. So thank you all so much for having me. This is always such a lovely community. Give it up for LAFD, who showed up in force. Thank you all. Council District 4 is possibly the most flammable of all the council districts because we have so much of the Hollywood Hills, so I'm very, very grateful for you. And we actually were here a few months ago for a really fun and informative day, a fire safety day that was led in partnership with LAFD, where we learned how to do some CPR, we learned how to shut off the gas line at your house, we learned how to use an extinguisher properly, and we are actually having another one of those events in partnership with My Safe LA at the Greek Theater on the 23rd of June. And so if you want to sign up for it, if you want to learn how to do all of those things and learn a little bit more about how to get prepared for wildfires and earthquakes and learn how to shut off your gas, even if you live in an apartment, by the way. The training actually goes through how to look for it in your apartment building, which is very useful. So it was a great training, and thank you to all of you. My name is Nithya. I'm the council person for Council District 4, which goes from northern Silver Lake, all of Los Feliz, the Hollywood Hills, from Griffith Park to Franklin Canyon, most of Studio City, all of Sherman Oaks, bottom sliver of Van Nuys, all of Encino, and like 45% of Reseda. So really, so that's 260,000 constituents. It's the largest council districts in the entire country. Being a council member is a full-time job here in the city of Los Angeles, and often more than a full-time job. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm a mother of 8-year-old twins, the aforementioned children I like to kiss before they go to bed. They're in 2nd grade at Ivanhoe Elementary near my house. I'm an urban planner by training. I have a master's in urban planning from MIT. And before I ran for office, I did a lot of work on urban poverty issues, working as an adult for many years in India with people who lived in slums and informal settlements, and working in Los Angeles, both at the city and then as a volunteer on the issue of homelessness before I ended up running in 2020 and winning that office, and then winning re-election again in March of this year. So I'm grateful to all of you for your continued support and for the chance to serve you again. It's really a pleasure to be here, a gift and a privilege to serve this city, and really as an urban planner, seeing the insides of a city and how it works is really, it's incredible. It's really messy, but it is incredible to be able to see it and to get my arms around it. I want to go through a few updates, and then I can open it up for questions. First one, let's start with something happy. We've been hearing that there's a new mountain lion, which is really cool. The mountain lion is being tracked, and we spoke to the state wildlife folks, and what they've recommended for advice to constituents who've been calling the office with a lot of excitement is this is not like P22. P22 was used to humans and was kind of not domesticated in any way, but was just kind of had gotten used to living in close proximity to humans. And we don't know anything about this mountain lion. So the advice that they're giving is, if you see him, if you see him, yeah, count your blessings, but do not go close by. Take a picture, no. And we just want to say that the mountain lion may not stick around. Griffith Park is very small. So it was very surprising that P22 stuck around for as long as he did. That's why he was such a gift. But yes, so very exciting, but stay safe. I'm very excited that we have a few legislative updates to share. As you may know, my district was redistricted in 2021, a year after I got elected, through a process which was odd. And it turns out that LA City is one of the only jurisdictions among the ones that we're the most familiar with that lets elected officials draw their own lines. And so what we did, and it turns out that in LA City Council, many of the people who were the most powerful were drawing those lines to benefit themselves and their re-election, rather than drawing the lines to benefit you. And so we put forward a motion creating a truly independent redistricting process for the city of Los Angeles. That will require a charter amendment, which means you'll have to vote on it. And I'm very proud to say that this motion that I authored and led the passage of is successful, and that independent redistricting charter amendment will be on your ballot in November of 2024, which is great. We have some other ethics reforms, some a little less ambitious than I had hoped to see happen, but still important, including a protected budget for the Ethics Commission, some rules around kind of disclosure, and some other issues that will also be on your ballot. Broadly speaking, besides independent redistricting, these are a smaller set of things that will be on the ballot, but still exciting for Los Angeles, and I strongly urge you to get informed and to vote in the November election. We've passed a suite of renter protections last year. Many of you in the Beachwood area are renters. I'm the chair of the Housing and Homelessness Committee for a little over a year now, and as part of my work in the committee, I worked to pass the largest expansion of tenant protections since the passage of the rent stabilization ordinance, which was 40 years ago, which is really exciting. So we're the largest city in America to have universal just cause eviction protections. We have a threshold under which if you owe rent, you can't be evicted. So that is basically if you owe less than 1 month's fair market rent, you still owe that rent to your landlord. Your landlord can still collect on it, but you can't be evicted on the basis of that rent owed. And so that's an additional protection that I'm very excited about. And the final piece that I was the most excited about and has helped us in some ways to reshape how we do business as a housing department is that every time a landlord sends a notice to quit to residents now, whether it's a 3-day notice, a 30-day notice, or a 60-day notice, they also have to send a notice to the city of Los Angeles. And that is information that the city has never had before. So the courts got that, but because of privacy issues, we were able to get a number of eviction notices filed per zip code, but we were never able to know who got these notices. And so what the city has done, and our council office has done, is to pioneer a new way of responding to these notices. LAFD immediately sends you a notice as soon as we know that you're getting an eviction notice that lays out what your rights are in multiple languages, and provides you potential resources that you could lean on, eviction defense that the city has funded if you are income eligible, some resources related to kind of not legal support, but somebody who can kind of walk you through those protections. And that information is sent to every single person who's getting those eviction notices. A proactive outreach from the city that is going out to tenants for the first time since, from what I know, since World War II. So that's, in World War II, the city of Los Angeles was grappling with this huge influx of people who were moving here to work for the defense industry. A lot of people who were, had fought in the war and were moving here, huge housing crisis here. The city did all these big things to both build more housing and to protect existing tenants. And now we're actually doing something that, at least to some extent, mirrors that work, which is really exciting given the housing crisis that we're in. And we need to do both. We need to build a lot more housing in LA, and we need to protect existing tenants in LA. And we have to do those things in parallel, and I'm hoping that we can continue to do that. The mayor's office has actually been an incredible partner in this work. The mayor's fund has invested in tenant protections work throughout the city, targeting our most impacted and most vulnerable zip codes, and they're doing outreach, going out in the field. And our office, in our zip codes, because most of our zip codes don't qualify for that work, we are actually, every time we hear a notice, we're making phone calls out to tenants, and sometimes knocking on doors personally to make sure that they're aware of their rights. Okay, I can talk a little bit about our work on homelessness. We have a very robust homelessness response team in the office. We've hired a staff of 3 people. The fourth is on maternity leave, but she'll be back. But we have 3 people who manage a network of service providers who serve the entire district. We are in 2 different regions, one in the valley, one in the central city area, which these are service planning areas, SPA 4 and SPA 2. And so we have different partners that work in those areas. And what the homelessness team does is 2 things. One is we ensure that this very fragmented network of service providers is going out proactively and responsively in response to residents highlighting issues, or our own team kind of IDing that there's encampments. They go out to those encampments regularly, they get them connected to services, they put them on the list for housing, and work with them, case manage them until they can get them indoors. We also apply for resources because, as I say in almost every meeting, the reason why Los Angeles and the situation related to homelessness looks the way that it does is because Los Angeles has never invested in the kind of shelter and housing that we've needed to address our homelessness crisis. So you ask, what's the difference between New York and LA? New York actually has more homeless people than LA, but New York is under a court mandate to build the number of shelter beds that it needs for its entire homeless population. And so the majority of its unhoused residents in the city of New York has 80,000 homeless residents. But the vast majority of them are indoors, in shelter. And only a couple thousand of them, and those are individuals who are the sickest, who have severe mental illness, who may be the hardest to serve, those are the ones who are out on the streets in New York. here in Los Angeles, we have 1/3 of the shelter beds that we need for our homeless population. And as a result, in our city, not the county, the city, where we have 40-something thousand homeless individuals, we have 30,000 unsheltered, unhoused residents. 30,000 versus a couple thousand. And so that fact, that difference in shelter accessibility really defines our experience of homelessness here. That's why we have so many tents. That's why we have so many people in RVs. And so a lot of our work in the office, which is part of what our homelessness team does, is to try and increase the number of shelter beds that we have available to people experiencing homelessness in our district. We fight for resources in the city budget, fight very hard every year. We look for hotel and motels in the district that want to partner with us for long-term leases. We did that under Project Room Key when federal funds were available, and now we're doing it under city funding available through a case that we've settled. But we're fighting for those resources to be in our district. We are also raising money from other levels of government. So I'm very proud to say that because we raised our hands and talked to our federal partners, our district actually got 1/4 of all congressional appropriations last year, which was great. And part of that work is just saying, and it's not all for homelessness, but some of it is. But we get it for all kinds of things across the district. And we've gotten money from this governor through an encampment resolution fund, all that's going towards motel and hotel vouchers that can get people off the street. And then once they're in those interim sites, we work with them to move them into long-term housing. That process is not working very well right now. Often people are spending way too long on the streets before they ever get access to a shelter bed. And once they get into the shelter beds, they're spending way too long in the shelter sites before they're able to move on to their permanent housing solution. We're trying to fix all that. It's going to take time, but I'm aware that there's serious problems there and working behind the scenes with the system to try and improve it. I heard reports from residents that there was a tent on Canyon Drive, and we've gotten some reports of RVs in this area. At this moment, we are not aware of any. We've case managed that one individual in the tent, and then I think the RVs have moved from these locations. But if you ever see individuals that are needing service, please do reach out to us. If you see a person in crisis on the streets, but they're not harming anybody or harming themselves, someone who just obviously needs help, you can call the Circle line. And that's through, you can.
Circle doesn't serve up here.
Yeah, it stops at like Carlos and part of Franklin, I'm sorry, part of Franklin.
In the places where you're likely to see homelessness in this neighborhood, you are also likely to have access to the Circle team. We can certainly look at the maps, but we're fighting for citywide coverage for Circle.
Do you need more dispatchers because it takes an average of over 45 minutes?
I know, I've called myself, yes. And that's for the non-emergency line and for 911, we need more police dispatchers. So it's certainly something that we want to make sure that we have more access to. And I think oftentimes you're in a situation, if you're in a store and you see somebody who needs support, you don't feel equipped to talk to them yourselves. Those are situations where you can call the Circle team, but we need to make sure that the Circle team is able to respond in a timely fashion. That being said, once that you've called the Circle team, I have had great success actually having them come out.
How do you call the Circle team?
Call the police non-emergency line. And that's the problem there, right? So sometimes it can take 15 minutes for someone to pick up the phone. Sometimes it can take 45 minutes for someone to pick up the phone on the police non-emergency line. What I will say is that be patient. I've called multiple times myself for individuals, and the Circle team has always come, and we are working to increase those, the staff members staffing there. What is that number?
It's at 187 Ask LAPD.
1-877 Ask LAPD.
What kind of world is this? I'm the one with the answer.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. Okay, let's move on. Memorial Day deployment for kind of traffic enforcement in this area. I know it's always a problem here. We'll have deployment out in the neighborhood as we have, we've put together something of a system. We know it's imperfect and needs more, but from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., May 24th through 27th, that will be 2 LAPD motor patrol officers who will be looking out for smoking, tour buses, unsafe congestion, and any other hazards to the community, and 6 traffic control officers. stationed at Beachwood and Ledgewood, Deronda and Rockcliffe, Ledgewood and Rockcliffe, 6100 Mulholland Highway, Canyon Lake Drive and Mulholland Highway, Canyon Lake Drive and Arrowhead Drive. And there'll be an additional parking enforcement officer at Lake Hollywood Park and at Beachwood Canyon.
Can you send that to us so we can?
Yep, and we have every every holiday season we plan for this deployment. We've improved the deployment in response to feedback from residents. We are aware that there are situations during the holidays, particularly July 4th and certain summer weekends, where even this kind of enforcement is not enough. We're working on getting more resources. Ultimately, the only way that we will be able to manage traffic to the Hollywood sign is by providing an alternative for people to take their private car. And the challenge, there's a number of challenges with doing that, which we're trying to sort out in a number of ways. If, for example, around on Canyon Drive near Lake Hollywood Park, which is the place where everyone wants to take their pictures, you can't put no parking there and provide a shuttle service. Or you can't put no parking signs there because it is a public park. And so you have to give people access to public spaces while still managing those traffic and transit issues and still following the law on what it means to provide access. And so what we're doing is working with the city attorney to see, are there alternatives to access other than just allowing private automobiles that will still allow us to regulate cars into these areas a little more effectively. We have not come to a solution on that yet, but I just want to assure you that we have a Hollywood Sign working group. We have members here from, you're on it? Yes. Yes. And we have one more member from this community who's on it, and we are working hard in partnership with our neighborhoods to try and find resolutions. One of the ongoing challenges with finding a resolution for this is that the neighborhoods that are around the Hollywood sign are often in very strong disagreement with one another on what needs to be done. And so we are managing that as best as possible and moving, but regardless, we have put forward a few efforts, some of which are in progress, some of which are, all of them are in progress. We have tour bus regulatory signage, which will go up shortly, that will tell tour buses where they can and can't stop, and will allow us greater ability to enforce their movement. We're going to be replacing the fencing along Mulholland Highway, and we're just waiting on basically the Bureau of Engineering to do that, but that's funded and moving forward. We asked for funding from Adam Schiff, so if you'd like to put in a word with, yes, well, you'll tell him you won't like him unless he gives you funding for the Mulholland Highway Canyon Lake roundabout. So that's basically allowing cars that are going up into Canyon Lake Drive the ability to turn around and leave right there. If they don't do that, they come out this way, right? And that's a problem because these streets are really narrow, and so we'd like to give them the opportunity to leave right from there. We're working. We would love to be able to increase access to Griffith Park through more gates, including through the Beachwood gate, but we are working out a number of issues, including an ongoing lawsuit with the Sunset Ranch, and some challenges with LADOT funding. So if we were to run a shuttle, which is the only way that we could really think about opening up this gate, we need a dash bus to do that. But our Prop A funding is falling short of what we need. And so we are basically trying to figure out an alternative way to fund some of this work. We have some ideas. We'll need the support of the mayor's office, so we're in talks with our deputy mayor of infrastructure, our deputy mayor of economic development, as well as, and what does Jacqueline Hamilton do? Deputy Chief of Staff?
She does.
Community, no, it's
No,
not community.
it is. I'm so sorry.
I know.
She does a lot of parks, and there's a services. Look up.
Okay. Well, very important people who have a lot of power. He knows who she is. He knows who she is. And I'm just forgetting her title, and I apologize for that.
Deputy Mayor of Neighborhood Services.
Neighborhood Services. So we have, we've been in communications with them, and we are really pushing for what we hope will be a more holistic solution. But we have made significant progress already in terms of getting these allocations, ensuring that the deployment is at the strength that it needs to be, and ensuring that we have a lot of contact with our community so we're able to address issues proactively. I will say that Council District 4 has the second and third most visited tourist locations in the entire city, and these are the second and third most visited by an order of magnitude larger than everything else, right? So it's Venice Beach is the highest, and then the next two are the Hollywood Sign and the Griffith Observatory. And then it's everything else, right? So these are the three biggest tourist attractions in the city of Los Angeles by far. And yet, how many extra dollars does Council District 4 receive to manage this?
Zero.
That's right.
Exactly.
We get none.
It's always been none.
Right. And so that's what we're trying to fix as an ongoing problem. And we are going to a difficult budget cycle, but I am hopeful that we will, now I'm here for another term. I have 4.5 years. I'm hopeful that we can actually get to real resolutions with all of this. But know that I have been a strong advocate for a more systemic and holistic response that asks the city, that depends on our our tourism dollars, by the way. These tourism dollars are a big source of our general funds. They impact our city's budget quite a bit. So I'm asking the city, you depend on us for your visitors and for your tax dollars, but we don't get very much in return in order to shoulder that burden in deeply residential neighborhoods, So that's what we are very clear about kind of where we need to move to and to get to a better situation, and I'm grateful that we've made some progress over the last year with this working group, and we'll make more. Okay, and then last I'll just go through some transportation issues. We had requested a new stop sign at Beachwood and Scenic in the center, and we got it. Which is, yes, so there should be. Okay, so we'll fix that. There should also be another piece that you're missing, which is a high contrast crosswalk. Is that there already? It is there? Okay, does it have, okay.
It doesn't have any kind of blinker flash.
Black and white? It's black and white? Okay, great. That's good, because that black thermoplastic was apparently on back order. But I'm glad that it's here now, so it's here. But we'll ask for the,
Because we took total credit for that since nobody did it. We just put out the newsletter and said we did it.
oh, well, we did it together.
It wasn't like we didn't ask you for it.
Sure, yes, that's right. You asked. I would love some credit, but it's okay. I get blamed for a lot, so I'd love to just
No, I got confirmation today that we asked for it.
Okay, good. We also asked for high visibility crosswalks at Scenic and Gower, but that's still being studied. The intersection of Beachwood and Franklin is actually a place where we're now advocating for more improvements. It turns out it's been very dangerous. We've had 2 deaths and 1 serious injury just in the last 3 years, between 2020 and 2022, which is a lot.
I saw them.
So now, to date, we have done a couple of short-term things. We trimmed trees on the westbound approach. We installed leading pedestrian intervals for 2 legs, which is when you get a few extra seconds to cross before the light changes, with plans to add to the other 2 as well. We'd like to add striped, have we already added the striped crosswalks for all of the intersection legs here? At Beachwood and Franklin?
Beachwood and Franklin, yeah, and they have a little hump.
You haven't added yet? Okay.
They added the little humpy
Okay.
things.
Okay.
The little humpy things for the turns, and they put kind of fresh paint.
Okay. So I'll go and check and I'll make sure, but they're also working on a left turn hardening plan, which basically means that bollards will go in the center line at the intersection to induce, that's already there? Oh. It's basically, No, they're supposed to be bollards. How high are they? Oh no, so I don't think these have been installed yet. So basically, this is what we do around schools where a fast left turn could potentially hit a child that's crossing the school, right? So we've done this in like near Franklin Elementary, we did it. And so basically, it is essentially making sure that that left turn is harder and slower to do, and so it should slow down that intersection. And an example of what this is, if you want to go take a look at it, is at Fountain and Normandy. So if you want to take a look at what's there, you can give us your feedback. Fountain and Normandy. That's all my notes for today, but I also just did want to say, you know, we've invested in a large team. We have an office that prides itself on being very hardworking and details oriented. We work on policy issues. We try never to take the easy way out or to play the blame game with issues, and you know, really try and say, okay, if there is a problem in Los Angeles, what is the solution here, and how can we work on a long-term approach to it? And if we're not meeting up to those standards, let us know, and we'll try and do better. So thank you all so much, and I'm open for some questions. Oh yes, no.
And she
Well,
can
that's
get home by 8:15.
no.
Go home.
No.
No, just walk to the back. They'll grab you. Trust me. If you have questions for her, walk with her to the car. Let's get her home.
No, want to take 2 questions? You're
It's
so
up
kind.
to
I'll
you.
take 2 questions. How about that?
I told
Does
you, you
that
can
sound-
take them walking to the car. They'll come back and report.
So Officer Mata is here, who's a wonderful partner for us in the community, and she can certainly provide you more input about what LAPD's presence is in this area and how they're kind of responding to our public safety needs. And if there's anything that you want to advocate for in their presence, we can certainly be an ear for that and raise those questions with them. I would say that, you know, I think that is potentially an instance where the circle team would be a potentially useful situation. Question is the speed, right? So if it's a situation where you're not feeling unsafe, but you do feel like the individual who's coming needs support, that's a circle team call, right? But overall, I would say that we're in a very tough situation with safety issues here in Los Angeles. We're having overall kind of violent crime is trending down, but certain categories of crime are going up, like Grand Theft Auto has gone through the roof. Certain kinds of property crime has also increased. And I think there's also very kind of highly visible events that are happening that are really contributing to a feeling of chaos and lack of safety in our neighborhoods, right? So there's, a few months ago, there was a series of those like smash and grab where a bunch of people would go in and rob a store, the kart racing, and then there's also, over the past few days, have been a series of very violent incidents on our metro system, which have been very, very worrying. That they have a separate police presence and are kind of governed separately from the city of Los Angeles. But I do want to say that, you know, we are trying our best to do the thing that has been kind of statistically proven to increase safety, which is you have paid eyes on the street. And some of those paid eyes are armed police officers, and some of them are unarmed officers, like homeless outreach workers, mental health workers, circle team employees, urban alchemy workers. So all of these people, and I think when you look at when any kind of study on where crime goes down, and historically when crime has gone down in cities across America, it has been when the city has invested in more eyes on the street, right? This has worked in bid areas, so bid officials going out, bid security staff, bid police. It has gone through the nonprofits, increasing their presence on the streets. Often you can get, for example, like the yellow shirted workers on the Metro Ambassadors, you can get many more workers for lower costs, and so sometimes that can be an effective way of increasing that. But there's no easy answer, and I do want to just share with you that this is a question that I take very seriously and grapple with a lot, and so please let us know what your challenges are and what we can do more of. So yeah, I'm a woman walking the streets of Los Angeles, and I have 2 little children that I desperately want to keep safe. So yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm very excited about this. Earlier this year, I was laying in my hospital bed and this invitation came, and a legislature person reached out to people in the community and said, "Hi, let's talk." Okay, so that lovely person is this gentleman, Joshua, forgive me, I can't help it. Joshua, who's actually here representing Rick Chavez Zbur, our state assembly member, because everybody got redistricted and Laura Friedman got promoted, and he's actually, I kind of like him a lot. So come on up here and tell us what's going on in your world.
Thank you so much. So it's good to see all of you. It's good to see some familiar faces. My name is Joshua Marin-Mora. I'm the field representative for Assemblymember Rick Chavez Zbur, Assemblyman District 51. It's a new district, got merged together, and essentially runs Griffith Park, Hollywood Hills, and then follows it all the way down to Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, and the greater Hollywood area. So I just, for those who don't know about Assemblymember Zbur, this is his 2nd year of his first term in office. He is currently serving as a Democratic Caucus chair, which is exciting. And this year, one of our key committees that we're on is the Budget Committee, which, as many have heard, we're in a dire budget situation. But that's one of the things that we're dealing with there. And I just wanted to give a few legislative updates about, what we've been working on, what our priorities are. And the first one is around housing and homelessness. The Assemblymember follows the belief that it is more compassionate in the long term and more successful to make sure that our most vulnerable populations are kept are kept housed instead of becoming homeless and are at most risk of homelessness. So one of his bills, which actually made it out of the Assembly floor today and is now in the Senate, is called the California Housing Security Act, which would basically establish a housing subsidy to help the folks who are most vulnerable to homelessness, including low-income foster youth, older adults, adults with disabilities, and others, all without regard to that individual's immigration status. And it's a 2-year bill. It's also been sponsored by the City of Santa Monica and the LA County Board of Supervisors, and it made it out of the Assembly today, and it's in the Senate. And the other one that we've been working on regarding the issue of housing and homelessness deals with RVs, and we actually partnered with the mayor's office, Mayor Bass's office, on this bill. And what it does is, during the inside safe operations that take place, if there's an individual who's living in an RV who wants those wraparound services and their RV gets relinquished, what this bill would allow is for the city to lease out unused Caltrans property at a reduced rate to store those RVs, while the individual who was living in that RV gets access to the services that they need. And that is currently still on the Assembly floor. And also, for anyone following the legislature, by the end of this week, any bills that originated in the Assembly need to be voted on one way or the other, and move them over to the Senate so they can move over to considering Senate bills. The other big priority this year that the Assemblymember has been hearing from a lot of concerned folks is this, and the council member brought it up earlier, was the issue of the serial organized retail theft and the smash and grabs that we saw. He understands, the experiences folks have, waiting for things to get our basic necessities, and workers not feeling safe, and businesses not wanting to operate here. So first thing was, he was appointed the chair of the new Select Committee on Retail Theft that convened for the first time in December. It's a bipartisan Select Committee. They had a hearing in Sacramento, several hearings. They had another hearing here in the district in West Hollywood to discuss the issues, hear from criminal justice reform advocates, business owners, labor representatives, etc., to really put together, which they have, a comprehensive omnibus bill package that has now been introduced. And the Assembly member's specific bill is actually co-sponsored by the Assembly Speaker to really make sure that it has, the force behind it to get through the legislative process. And they've been working very closely with the governor's office, and it's really targeted towards folks who do the repeated smash and grab crimes and the organized crime rings. It's not so much trying to go after other folks in poverty, other folks in other situations. We're talking about the grander theme here, and also when it comes to the role of online marketplaces and how to aggregate charges that take place across multiple counties. We're talking about the big stuff here, and so that legislation is moving through. It's also on the Assembly floor now, has been another priority. And then finally, the Assemblyman, on public safety. One other bill that we were working on regarding public safety is California is, as we all know here, I'm sure, a leader when it comes to gun violence restraining orders. But what this legislation would do is it provides additional factors for civil court judges to consider when determining whether to issue a gun violence restraining order. And those additional factors include threats of violence made against individuals or groups protected by California's hate crime laws, and threats of violence to advance political objectives. So that's a gun, the Assembly is very sensitive to what's happening, with the gun violence epidemic and what has been happening in increased threats to a series of marginalized groups here in our state. And so this is another way to help address, to help California continue to lead the country when it comes to gun reform. And then climate change and environmental advocacy is also very important to the Assembly member. Last year, he actually got signed into law a bill that would expand our offshore wind capacity and make sure that we're creating greener jobs here in California. This year, the legislature is working on a massive climate bond. And so what the Assembly member has done is partner with a series of other legislators and advocacy groups to push for that $1 billion in that broader climate bond be allocated to improving our seaport infrastructure. The offshore wind capacity is incredibly important for California to meet its 2045 climate action plan goals, and we need the infrastructure to support that. One turbine of the proposed and envisioned offshore wind turbines wouldn't even fit in Dodger Stadium, just one of those wings, and so we need the infrastructure to help support, especially our state's electrical needs there as well. So he's working on that. And I wanted to focus on a couple of recurring issues in our hillside communities that I've been hearing a lot about. The first, of course, is this recent discussion around AT&T being the carrier of last resort and the Public Utilities Commission. We know that they have signaled that they're going to, or that they have recommended to not go forward with this, and I know that AT&T is planning their own response. What I can say for now is that the Assembly member is very sensitive to the needs of our constituents in the hillsides who rely on landline services, knows the importance it is to have access to 911 and under an emergency. We know that the hillsides are fire prone and other natural disaster prone and power outage prone, so he's very sensitive to how important this is for a lot of folks in this community, and I know that they're currently working on monitoring this and what could happen next. And then I guess like the final message I want to give off. Oh, and then the other one is the matter of insurance. I know that the issue with a lot of insurance providers leaving the state. I know the competition or the rates going up. We're very sensitive to that. We're working with other offices and Commissioner Lara's office to make sure that folks have access to the protection that they need. And we're monitoring that all very closely. And I know the Assemblymember has been in touch with the Commissioner's office as well. I will keep, of course, Missy informed specifically to help disseminate any updates that I continue to get on this matter, but we're very aware of how important it is for our hillside communities and our constituents as that continues to happen here in California. And then finally, the Assemblymember also just cares very deeply about civil rights, and especially around the LGBTQ plus community and other marginalized groups. And we were very proud that while we see the rise in attacks against the LGBTQ plus community, last year the Assemblymember passed into law Assembly Bill 5, which is the Safe and Supportive Schools Act, to make sure that teachers are equipped with how to best support the needs of not just our LGBTQ plus students, but all of our students, because we know that LGBTQ plus youth disproportionately end up unhoused or end up in other systems that put them on a path that where the systems that are meant to support them are failing them. And we also just passed out of the Assembly another bill that would expedite medical licensure for gender-affirming care here in California, and we continue to help be a national leader, especially in this space. So I've kind of given you all a lot of information there, but that's a glimpse into the Assemblymember's priorities, why he ran for the Assembly, what we've been working on, what we're trying to do, and of course, I will keep you apprised as the legislative session continues. And, in regards to the budget deficit, it's dire. That's just the reality. But we continue working with the governor's office and go through the motions of budget proposal. I think the governor's just released or is about to release an updated version of his budget also. So it's very fascinating to continue watching. But I thank you all for your time. Thank you for having me.
Hi, group. My name is Fran Reichenbach. I'm the founder, one of them. I want to picture. Come on, everybody. Ready? Oh yeah, hide your faces. Awesome. I only have one little bitty bone to pick with everybody here that has not joined the BCNA. We work so hard, and many of us work from afar. I do the newsletter, but every one of us is doing something to make things happen here. And the fact that we've gotten so many resources in the same room to talk about stuff that matters to us, that's really valuable. And I don't see another group in this area doing that. So if you are not a member, come on, join tonight, please. It's $20 a year. We're doing everything we can we're not going to raise those dues. We've been in operation since 1998. Oh, you're here. Oh.
Actually, you should raise your dues. It's been the same for like 20 years.
No, come on, but times are tough. If there's anybody here that would like to consider being a board member, joining our lovely board, artists are welcome. You, Mr. Orchestra, Tim, Mr. Flashing Lights. Come on. Ida is sitting here. She's a wonderful board member. And Bill, where are you, Bill? There you are. Bill, anybody who wants, Ida is right here. You have to talk to Ida. She's the lady who's going to talk to you and find out how committed you are and if you should be. And if you should be, you're in the right place. I would like to introduce our senior lead officer. Are you still our senior lead officer, Heather? Officer Mata. Come on up. This is Heather Mata.
Thank you. Sorry I was a little late to the party this evening. Had another meeting at Whitley Heights Civic Association meeting. It worked. So I wanted to go over a couple of things. I usually provide a crime update as far as statistics and things of that nature. However, the city and LAPD has undergone a very large transformation of a reporting system. So everything's changed for us, and they haven't figured out how to accurately track everything as of yet. We're a few weeks into the new system. So what we do know is that we are down in Hollywood in violent crime, which is great, but we are seeing a little spike in property crime. So we're seeing a spike in thefts, burglary from motor vehicles, and burglaries kind of across the board. So with that being said, I just want to encourage everyone here, if you have been a victim of property crime or any crime for that matter, please, please, please report it. You can use the online portal, the www.lapd.online. I think there's 7 or 8 different crime categories now that you can report online from the comfort of your home, very easy peasy. 877 Ask LAPD is another way to have officers respond to your home or place of business in a non-emergency fashion, or 911 if it's an emergency. So please report those crimes. If you don't officially report them, we don't have that crime number to allocate resources. So please, please, please report those things. And videos, photos, anything of that nature, please continue to send to me. I'll share a real quick story between the Oaks community and Beachwood Canyon community. We got a burglary suspect into custody on Friday morning, who's still in custody, which is great. And we got a filing, I found out from the city attorney's office this morning. So good news, and all of that was because of community input. People had filed their reports. There was a couple of attempt burglaries, 1 residential burglary, and then several trespassing reports that had been filed, coupled with a ton of video and photo evidence that was sent to detectives. They were able to identify who this person was, where he was living, where he was encamped, which was a vacant property here in this neighborhood. So all good. He's off the street. He's in custody. So thank you collectively for working on that. So that was a big win. I wanted to go over, I know the council member touched on it briefly, as far as, not briefly actually, she gave a really great report on holiday deployment. So we are very thankful for our partners within the council district for making those things happen, as far as dedicated resources to a lot of these tourist hotspots, because without them, sometimes LAPD, we just don't have enough officers to dedicate to all of those issues. So those resources have been dedicated on an overtime basis, and it's not about the money, it has to do with those officers being affixed to that area for their entire shift. They're not going to get pulled off for radio calls, they're not going to get pulled off for other things unless there's some type of emergency that maybe happens in front of them. So that's great, that's a huge win for the community. I think this is year 2, right, Emma?
Yeah.
I think year 2. Which is great. There's still some kinks in the road there, but collectively a big win for Lake Hollywood and for Beachwood residents. LAPD will also be on max deployment for the upcoming holiday weekends. So Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day, you'll have nearly 80-90% of the force that's assigned to Hollywood Division working those weekends to help support those efforts. So that's great. I did bring a stack of trespass authorization forms that are in the back. For those of you who maybe had them for your property or haven't filled one out before, I do strongly encourage you to do so. What that allows is for LAPD to come onto your property in your absence. So pretty much we have in writing that it's okay, say you're out of town, your neighbor calls in, there's someone on your lot, on your property, I know that person's not supposed to be there, someone's trespassing. It gives LAPD the authority to go onto your property to either escort the person off, make an arrest, whatever that case may be. But if you're not present and someone else calls it in, it makes it really difficult without that form. That form does need to be coupled with a no trespassing sign somewhere that's visible to the public on your property. So wherever you want to put it is fine, just as long as it's visible to the public. The forms are in the back by the sign-in sheet. If there aren't enough or we run out, I can email those out as well. The easiest way is to fill it out and email it to me. I believe Fran and the board have all of my contact information if you don't.
Update that once a year?
Yes, so it's only good for 1 year. So if it's expired or you think it might be expired, just send me a new one. or reach out to me and I can email you the form so we can take care of that. There's a lot going on all summer, but specifically in June, we have LA Pride coming up on June 9th. So there are going to be a lot of street closures on the 9th, and they're probably going to last the majority of the day and probably start the night before on the 8th. I don't know all of the specifics, but primarily the Hollywood Entertainment Zone, Hollywood Boulevard, portions of La Brea, and portions of Sunset will be closed. So it is a Sunday afternoon. Just plan accordingly. Know that if you're going south, you're going to probably hit quite a bit of traffic. June 14th through the 16th, we're going to have the president in town. So not just LAPD Hollywood, but all of LAPD will be on nearly max deployment. So most of us will be working those 3 days to help facilitate the movement and to kind of stand by if there's any major incidents in the city at that time. There may also be street closures associated with that visit, but we won't know those until closer to that time. A quick save the date. Tuesday, August 6th, we're having our National Night Out event. It's something that we do every year. It really helps promote camaraderie between us, the police department, and the community. And we've really tried to pick different locations throughout Hollywood that are kind of unique to Hollywood. This year, we're taking it back to the streets and actually kind of having a block party next to our station. So we have several bands lined up, free food, giveaways, and if there's any community groups that want to do outreach or if you want to participate, volunteer, I'm the coordinator for that event. Again, Tuesday, August 6th is going to be from 5 to 9 p.m. on Cole Place, adjacent to Hollywood Station. And once we have flyers and things of that nature, I'll send them out to the board. Sorry, I know that was quick. In respect of everyone's time, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to address. Emma.
I heard from a constituent that I might
No, even the ones they sell them at like Home Depot or Amazon. Those will suffice. So in short, yes, we are aware of it. I know that they've been a problem for more than 2 years, as far as I know, probably even closer to 3. We have a street racing task force through our West Traffic Division, and I think it was summertime of last year, they took over investigative responsibility on this group because it's a larger group than what just congregates here in Hollywood Division. And in short, like some of the codes and the things that we're seeing violated, our department policies have become very strict on what type of stops and things we can do on motorcycles because it's such a liability. So a lot of those things we have had to stand down, unfortunately, with some of those instances. If there's like a one-off where there's one motorcycle rider, but that's usually not the case, right? They're usually in groups, and there have been mass takedowns attempted. Some of them have been successful, some of them haven't, and a lot of these folks have been identified, and different crimes associated with these individuals have been investigated, and people have been arrested that are part of this group. But in short, the group as a whole, it's something that we're kind of still working on, but not able to completely, I think talking to different folks are like, oh, why can't you just do a mass takedown or, things of that nature, and it's just, it's not feasible with some of the policies that our department has right now, as far as public safety is concerned with the officers and those groups. We've done quite a bit of follow-up with a lot of like these violations that you're describing, even the fact that these are off-road vehicles, that is a violation of itself. But the officers do have to observe that type of violation, which is tricky. And then our department wants us to steer away from conducting stops on these types of vehicles a lot of the time because it's so dangerous. And a lot of these folks are not wearing helmets and things of that nature. I know it's very complex.
What makes it so dangerous?
As far as the groups are concerned, a lot of times they outnumber us. We don't fight fair. We like to have as many officers as we can if we're going to do some type of stop like that, at least a 2-to-1 ratio. And a lot of times it's going to have to be something pre-planned. So say if we get information that they're going to be at the intersection of X and Y having some type of meeting or gathering, then those type of resources may be able to be coordinated. The other part of it is pursuits. These particular riders are known to take off on police. If we get in a pursuit with them and they crash and die or kill somebody, guess what? We're responsible. And our pursuit policy is becoming that much more strict as to where in the coming months, maybe this year, we're no longer going to be able to pursue vehicles for property crimes, let alone vehicle code violations. It's just too dangerous. I understand that they do impose a public safety risk based off of their writing. And if you witness something like that, please call 911 so that we can get the resources there immediately, get the air support overhead, and coordinate those efforts and those resources if we do have it.
We need somebody from your department to this, okay, you're gonna laugh, to dress down and infiltrate this group.
It has been talked about. It may be done. I don't know, because a lot of those operations aren't public knowledge. Sometimes we're not even aware because they're. So it could possibly be a circle call out, but it's predominantly going to be LAPD because it's going to be a trespass. And that's where like those files are important too. So maybe if you're a property owner or it's your neighboring business, your neighboring apartment complex, if you know the manager, like, hey, get in contact or email me the issue, right? And I can try to look up to find out who the property owner is and see if they're interested in filling out one of those forms so that we can address those issues. But 877 ask LAPD either way. And a lot of times the dispatcher can differentiate whether it's going to go to the circle team or to us. They can make that call. Yeah?
Can the circle team have their own phone number?
So something like that could happen. Right now they're not servicing the entire city. And it's still, I don't think it's still a pilot program, I think, but we don't have coverage for the entire city. So once that probably takes place, I would gather that they will probably have their own dispatch center. But dispatch as a whole, I think we're down to a third of the dispatchers that we need for the city to function. So that is the reason for the lengthy wait times and things of that nature. So we'd have to hire 4 to 5 times as many dispatchers as we currently have to make that work. I'll give you my email address if you want to take it down.
Yeah, that'd be great.
409 88 at LAPD .online.
Thank you.
No problem. If there's anything here I wasn't able to address or you have some other question you want to discuss with me, we can set up a time to talk. Email me. The board has my contact information and we can set something up. Thank you. Bye.
Before everybody leaves,
Don't leave yet.
okay, number 1, make sure you signed in so we can get you on our mailing list. Number 2, think about joining us because, we need some younger people here to make things better for us because, as you can tell, I'm tad tired. But that has nothing to do with my age. But anyway, the point is, thank you all for coming very much. Thank you all for realizing you live in a neighborhood where all of our issues are really first world, rather than having issues about really terrible things that could have happened, that have happened, but they're not happening to us, thank God. So let us all be grateful and stop and finish all the food so that's less we have to take home. Thank you all.